Welcome everyone in person and also online. Before starting, we would like to remind you that simultaneous interpretation in English, French, and Spanish is available. I would like to give all of you a warm welcome to and also thank you very much for your interest and for keep involved on the prevention and attention of gender-based violence in our respective contexts and territories. My name is Yanina Marquez. I'm the director of a feminist grassroots organization in Peru. We work for the human rights of displaced refugees, immigrants, adolescents, girls, and women. This afternoon, I have been assigned the role to moderate and to timekeep for this high-level event titled Strengthening National Systems and Access to Gender-Based Violence Prevention and Response Services in Refugee Hosting Countries Across the Nexus in partnership with women-led organizations. I will also like to remind all of us that this is a safe space and this is also a horizontal space. We have prepared a dynamic event divided into 4 main parts. We're going to start with this wonderful group of women to open and give the remarks, followed by an inspiring conversation between 2 refugee women leaders, a high-level panel discussion featuring 3 country representatives and 1 Global Refugee Forum refugee expert, a series of impactful interventions from the floor from selected stakeholders, and we'll finish with final reflections provided by a refugee women-led organization and remarks by a state representative. We remind you that please, if you exceed your allocated time for intervention, we will be obligated to interrupt you. Please don't make me do it. Please kindly keep to your time assigned to allow a stakeholder to take the floor. To start this insightful event, I would like to invite UNHCR Deputy High Commissioner, Ms. Kelly Clements.
Thank you very much, Elena, and greetings to everyone, including this wonderful panel that has been assembled. Other than the plenary, this is my first event in this forum in one of these rooms, and rather astonished to come in and see an entirely packed room even many minutes before we began. So I know it indicates the level of interest in the topic, and I thank you all for being here and those that are tuning in online. It's really an opportunity to make tangible commitments in gender equality and strengthening national protection systems, and we're doing this obviously in very close collaboration and partnership with women-led refugee organizations and other civil society actors, which is so important. The pledges that are made today are going to assist and protect 19 million displaced women and girls in 20 countries, and more than $15 million have been invested additionally in women-led organizations as part of this pledge. And this is absolutely, I have to say, I get very excited when I see all of the energy and the commitment, because there are 100 stakeholders that are involved and have been mobilized towards this pledge. Many have been involved, including some of my fellow panelists, Farida, Sharza, Mary, Elena, and Marguerite. They're obviously going to share their insights and their expertise with us in just a little bit. We're really following your lead, your design, where you think we should be going in terms of better protecting women and girls. It's really local and community-led initiatives that are going to make the difference and make the change that is really necessary so we can prevent and then respond to, if need be, gender-based violence. Thanks particularly to all of the ministers and the state representatives. I am surrounded by 2, Director General from Germany, of course, and the Minister from France. And this co-lead, the fact that they are co-leading on the call to action and the pledge is absolutely fundamental to our success, so we thank you for that. I think it's fair to say, and if I was to ask for a show of hands, if you all think we're making adequate progress on this quickly enough, I bet there would be very few of you that would raise your hands. Indeed, if we look at the Sustainable Development Goals, I have my pin on as a show of support, The world's progress in achieving gender equality is exceedingly slow and uneven across the globe. To give you a statistic, at the current rate, it would take 300 years to end child marriage and 286 years to close the gaps in legal protection and remove discriminatory laws. The majority of the world's refugees are fleeing into countries that are already facing socio-political and economic challenges, so this is not an easy environment in which to work. And many countries are facing conflict, and the climate and the humanitarian crises are also on the front lines, obviously, of the climate crises. In the context of these rising needs and widening funding gaps, gender-based violence protection and response is woefully undersupported and underfunded. It's among the least funded sectors when you look at the humanitarian response plans, the refugee response plans that we put out to the international community regularly. So we need to do more, and that's why we're here. That's why we're putting a spotlight on this. We're looking for innovative and transformative solutions to strengthen refugee inclusion in some of these programs at the country and the community level, and we want to invest very heavily in local responses. The solutions must be driven not by us, but by refugee women and girls themselves. So a little bit of progress, because I don't want to paint an overly gloomy picture. There has been a bit of progress in 2022. A total of 229 women-led organizations were part of gender-based violence coordination mechanisms at the country and local level in refugee settings, which was a 63% increase over 2021, but I know we can still do better. And today, really, this is a chance for an expression of solidarity with the survivors of gender-based violence, most importantly, a reaffirmation of what we can do better, what we need to build on that's going well, and where we need to really promote the rights and the dignity of refugee women and girls across the globe. So thank you very much, Alina, and really look forward to the outcomes of this session.
Thank you, Ms. Clements, and thank you for supporting women-led organizations and for putting the money where it's supposed to be, because women-led organizations are the social fabric of all our communities, and they need our support. So I would like to invite, for the opening remarks, Germany's Federal Minister for Foreign Affairs, Director General for Crisis Prevention, Stabilization, Peacebuilding, and Humanitarian Assistance, Ms. Daike Potzel.
Thank you so very much. Thank you very much for having me. Ladies and gentlemen, dear Kelly, Deputy High Commissioner, thank you so much for those very passionate words. I think you really kind of, motivated the room again with your energy. So it's really, really important to put so much emphasis on this really important topic. As both a host and a donor country, Germany understands the need for urgent action, but also for global solidarity. Now, we all know the Global Compact for Refugees was designed, among other things, to increase access to solutions. And when we look at, and when it comes to protection against gender-based violence, we feel that we urgently need solutions, and as you said, we urgently need progress. We all know refugee women and children are especially vulnerable. The horrendous stories reaching us from sexually abused women and girls, and let me also say boys and men who are becoming victims as well, are intolerable. 50 women a day are being sexually attacked in refugee camps in the conflict areas in eastern Congo alone. We know that sexual and gender-based violence have devastating effects, not only for the survivors, but for their families and the wider community too. And it's going to be passed on to the following generations. It's abhorrent to see that sexual violence remains widespread in armed conflict around the world. For us as a country with a feminist foreign policy, this is indeed unacceptable. We, the international community, need to do more, as you said, Kelly, to prevent these brutalities from happening day in and day out. Now, as the current chair of the Call to Action on Protection from Gender-Based Violence in Emergencies, we, together with our partners, firmly have therefore been advocating for measures to be taken to end this terrible scourge. Therefore, today we present the multi-stakeholder pledge on gender equality and GBV protection of the call to action, because women and girls deserve a concerted effort by everyone: donors, host states, host communities, civil society, and, let me also say, private sector partners. We need financial decisions, but even more importantly, we need the political will to prioritize the protection from GBV in refugee settings. Now, key elements of our pledge are, first, access of displaced and stateless persons, especially women and girls, to inclusive and quality services that prevent from or respond to gender-based violence. Inclusion into national gender-based violence prevention and response systems is a core element of this pledge, because access to quality GBV services often enables humanitarian assistance in the first place. And most importantly, an improvement of national systems will help the host communities too. Secondly, innovative partnerships with women refugee-led organizations, as was already just mentioned, to advance gender equality and protection from GBV. Local partners are indispensable, and we are really pushing on all levels for stronger localization. Survivors of SGBV need a foundation of trust to seek assistance. And meaningful partnerships with women or girls and refugee-led organizations lay the ground for a fast and efficient response. Germany will complement this pledge with a number of national pledges that aim to improve the access of women refugee-led organizations to funding, strengthen GBV protection capacity within the humanitarian system, improve MHPSS services for survivors, and, very importantly, advance the participation and leadership of displaced women and girls. This pledge has been extraordinarily successful, which we are very, very happy about. More than 130 stakeholders joined this pledge. But this is not enough, and therefore we encourage everyone to still join this pledge. Refugee women and girls deserve it, as do, as I said, also boys and male victims as well. I would like to thank our co-leads, UK, Australia, and Chile, and the refugee experts who are joining us for their invaluable support. It gives me great pleasure as the current lead of the call to action to open the event and the discussion on such an important topic and with so many dedicated actors. And I'm hopeful that in the next 4 years, we will see, as you said, Kelly, significant progress on the protection from GBV in refugee context. Let us all work towards that together. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Potzel. We can see that your global solidarity is put into practice through your feminist foreign policy, because the core of feminism is solidarity. Thank you very much. And I would like to invite and give the floor to France's Secretary of State for Citizenship and the City, Mrs. Sabrina Agresti-Roubache.
Thank you, Elena. Bonjour. For my first, my first word. Je voudrais juste vous dire, déjà pour commencer, que pour moi, c'est un honneur de m'exprimer au nom de mon pays, la France, sur ce sujet tellement important qui est l'accueil des femmes réfugiées. L'histoire de ma famille est directement reliée, donc je ne parlerai pas que de manière technique, mais avec mon cœur. Je vais essayer. Donc dans ces temps agités, je voudrais tout d'abord avoir une pensée pour toutes les femmes qui sont contraintes de fuir leur pays, à la recherche d'un avenir meilleur. Vous le savez, tout au long de leur parcours, l'exil des femmes et des filles réfugiées sont confrontées à de terribles épreuves. Elles sont particulièrement vulnérables, vous l'avez dit. Elles courent un grand risque d'abandon scolaire, elles encourent le manque d'accès aux soins, elles sont vulnérables face aux violences sexuelles, et elles sont davantage victimes de la traite d'êtres humains. Hélas, ce n'est qu'un aperçu. Mesdames et messieurs, je vous le dis avec gravité. il est urgent d'agir. Comment agir pour protéger les femmes et les filles réfugiées? Il faut d'abord favoriser leur intégration dans les communautés qui les accueillent pour qu'elles puissent enfin avoir un avenir meilleur et vivre dignement. Elles auront alors une chance de s'émanciper et d'accéder à un emploi et à un logement. C'est pourquoi la France a lancé une initiative ambitieuse en faveur de la protection et de l'inclusion des femmes et des filles réfugiées tout au long de leur parcours. Cette initiative, nous l'avons appelée « Avec elles ». Notre objectif, c'est de permettre aux femmes et aux filles réfugiées d'accéder à l'autonomie. Nous leur donnons un meilleur accès aux biens et aux services de base, à l'éducation, à la formation et à l'emploi, et aussi au logement et aux soins, aux services de santé et au sport. Avec elles reposent sur des actions concrètes qui s'articulent autour de 4 piliers. L'inclusion, le partage des responsabilités, la résilience et la protection. Sur ce dernier pilier, les engagements de la France rejoignent l'initiative Égalité de genre et protection contre les violences fondées sur le genre, portée par le Haut-Commissaire aux réfugiés. Accompagner les femmes réfugiées est plus que jamais une priorité pour la France dans le cadre de sa politique de réinstallation. Dès 2024, parmi les 3000 accueils qui seront réalisés, nous accueillerons des femmes réfugiées afghanes depuis la Turquie. Ces efforts seront étendus aux femmes et aux filles d'autres nationalités. Par l'initiative Avec elles, la France s'engage également à mieux protéger et prendre en charge les femmes et les filles victimes de violences sexuelles. Nous poursuivons le financement des places d'hébergement dédiées à l'accueil de ces femmes et des filles. Nous développerons des actions de prévention et de formation à l'identification précoce de ces violences et à l'orientation rapide vers les dispositifs de prise en charge les plus adaptés. À l'international, la France renforcera son soutien aux initiatives et aux programmes en faveur de la lutte contre les violences fondées sur le genre et contre la traite des femmes et des filles. Enfin, la France s'engage à soutenir financièrement les projets à destination des femmes et des filles réfugiées qui renforcent leur accès à l'éducation, aux soins, à la formation professionnelle et à la protection contre toutes les formes de violence dans le pays d'accueil. Avec elle, a besoin de vous pour réussir. Au nom de la France, je tiens à remercier chaleureusement tous ces partenaires internationaux et européens qui contribuent à ces initiatives. Nous en sommes particulièrement reconnaissants et nous comptons sur vous. Ce n'est qu'ensemble que nous pourrons assurer une meilleure protection et une intégration durable des femmes et des filles réfugiées, pour qu'elles puissent vivre comme elles l'entendent, dans la dignité, dans la liberté, et de reprendre enfin espoir en leur avenir. Je vous remercie.
Thank you very much for seeing gender-based violence in this a comprehensive way and also inserting the gender approach to understand human trafficking that sometimes is left out. I also want to personally thank the three of you because back in Peru, you are the only 3 organizations that support my organization that is a grassroots feminist organization. So I give faith that they work with women-led organizations. So I would like to move to a very inspiring conversation, 2 awesome women that I deeply admire. So I will give the floor to Shaza Al-Rihawi. I forgive my Spanish, please. Member of the Action Network and Forced Displacement, a co-founder of the Global Refugee Network, and Farida Luanda, member of the Global Youth Refugee Network. I give the floor to you.
Hello? Is it working?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm very happy to be here. I'm somehow nervous because this is something which I've been not experienced in my life as an SGBV survivor and a first child marriage at the age of 10. So I'm happy to be here, and I want to respond on why women-led organizations are equal partners when it comes to we as women who are refugees. Yes, I say that this because women-led organizations are definitely equal and in technical capacity to do jobs, in innovation and in dedication to the protection of women and girls. Women and girls-led organizations brings a huge wealth to lived experience and also insights in our communities' work. And they are often the first responders in humanitarian context when it comes to crisis. As we have seen in many parts of the world recently, they are there in the community 24/7, so they see and hear and know what is happening than those who comes outside from the communities. Refugee women leaders who are passionate about protecting young girls are really vital child protection actors, and we need to recognize and reinforce their context, specifically knowledge, experience, and work. By working with them, we can leverage the talent and passion that refugee women-led organizations have and support child protection, gender equality, and protection from GBV in refugee settings and host communities, especially for girls at risk, and also the transgender women.
Yeah. Thank you, Farida, to mention this, and I will also elaborate a little bit from my experience also as a woman who faced a lot, and this is what will bring me here today with you. So I'm totally agree on women refugee-led organization, all women refugee-led organization, including LGBTIQ women, are really deserve to be an equal partner for many reasons that already shared here, but also because they are bringing diverse perspective, innovative approaches, and crucial insights to the table. They are not the only one who serve, that they are not the first one, but most of the time the only one who serve the whole community. And during the COVID, I think we saw a lot of examples where the women are really the one who serve all the community, including male and boys. For the leadership, ensuring for their leadership, we would like to mention that they are ensuring the comprehensive understanding of their issues, of their problems, of their context. So they are more like effective to have a sustainable solutions, and also while empowering and giving them the resources, we can foster the gender equality, driving positive changes across the communities. I think they are expert and they are understanding their context, but they are lacking of resources and funding. What do you think?
Yeah, thank you, Shaza, because that reminds me, I'm sorry, but this topic, it's very emotional when it comes to us as refugee women and girls who have experienced it before. And sometimes when we start touching base on this, I feel that it takes me back to my past, and feels like tears want to flow out, because it is something which needs to look at it as a sensitive issue, and it can't wait in all different areas. And it is important to find and empower women-led organizations who are supporting women and girls who are refugees for several reasons, have direct experience with displacement and the challenges faced within their communities. And in such circumstances, they bring valuable expertise and insights based on their understanding of the unique needs and vulnerabilities of refugee women and girls. I'm sorry, but it's emotional, because when I talk about this, it takes me the pain I went through as a young girl and experienced in this moment. So, I'm sorry. So, of refugee women and girls, enabling them to develop effective programs and intervention that address these specific issues, and also respond to the prevention of gender-based violence in our new communities. We don't want this to happen to us again. We are tired of this. And secondly, it is important to promote refugee girls and women participation by expanding women leadership and decision-making laws globally. And within their respective communities, change starts at home. We need to look at the communities. We need to help men and boys learn how to change their mindset and to share their responsibilities, power, and also leadership in a sustainable way. Lastly, capacity support is also important. Relevant stakeholders need to come on board and support research and documentation on GBV prevention practices and women-led organizations. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Farida and Shasa, for your wonderful, powerful, inspiring, insightful, for your wisdom. Please, state representatives, funders, you have the power to allow us to create change and accompany us through that work. And I will, yes.
Yeah, sorry.
Please, Shasa, I give
Okay.
the floor to you again.
Yeah, thank you. Sorry, I have to just comment to whatever she said. I don't have any more words to be power as her, but actually the direct flexible funding is really important for us. Leadership does not mean at all putting male aside. It's more about comprehensive work, coming together to work together as changing narrative about what is meaning women-led and organizations, not about just working as a woman. It's like everyone who believe in women power. And lastly, about the capacity sharing, I would like to say it should be not only for women-led organization, but also for the stakeholders. Stakeholders need to know the capacity, the knowledge, the all like resources, the needs, the solution that we have already, and communicate with us to come up with a more effective solutions in our work, if we would like to say. And a concrete three key messages is meaningful participation, inclusion, direct and flexible funding, capacity support, and mentorship. And allow me today just to announce a pledge that the Action Network made. It's a joint pledge with the partner of BMZ and the UN Women, teaming with the BMZ and UN Women Peace and Humanitarian Fund, the Lotus Flowers, Newman Connectors, and the Global Refugee-Led Network. We are here to renew our commitment to empowering displacement women and girls worldwide. So our pledge is advancing displacement women, leadership, and gender equality. Our pledge is champions active to engagement of displacement women and girls and leaders in political, economical, and social spheres, ensuring their voices are not just heard, but also drive. Partnership like an Action Network is bridging policies with realities. Our goal to include securing resources for refugee-led organization and advocating for more inclusive decision-making. This joint pledge underscores our dedication to gender equality and refugee participation, serving the empowered displacement women politically, economically, and socially for better and brighter future. Thank you, and I would like to ask you all to join this pledge.
Thank you very much to this first. Now I would like to join me here on the podium, Luz Vidal Huiriqueo, Undersecretary of Women and Gender Equity, the Republic of Chile. Please, if you can come to the podium. Also, Alexei Busu, Minister of Labor and Social Protection, Republic of Moldova. Marital, founder of the Whole World Women Association. and Beth Delaney, Humanitarian Coordinator and Head of Humanitarian Division, Department of Foreign Affairs, Australia. A round of applause, please, for our panelists. I also would like to remind our panelists that each one of you have 3 minutes to answer the question. Please do not exceed the time so we can have interventions from the stakeholders. The first question is for Ms. Luz Vidal Huiriqueo. Chile is leading by example with strong pledges and ensuring complementary and comprehensive protection for gender-based violence survivors who have experienced forced displacement, as well as improving evidence-based programming. How will these pledges benefit Chile and the region, and how do you plan to implement them in partnership with refugee women-led organizations and through an intersectional lens?
Muy buenas tardes, mi nombre es Luz Vidal Huiriqueo, subsecretaria de la Mujer y Equidad de Género de Chile. Es un honor para mí estar hoy día a nombre del Estado de Chile y del gobierno del presidente Gabriel Boric presentando la política que hemos trabajado para las mujeres refugiadas, que son sin duda uno de los elementos que el Ministerio de la Mujer y Equidad de Género hoy día ha puesto énfasis en la política de igualdad que hemos abordado producto de los últimos elementos, los últimos eventos que se han vivido a nivel mundial, como es la pandemia y como es la situación compleja que también se está viviendo a nivel mundial producto de las guerras y esta situación económica que ha dejado y política que tiene Latinoamérica hoy en día. Con poder consolidar la movilización coliderar la movilización de múltiples partes interesadas por la igualdad de género junto a Alemania, al Reino Unido y Australia, con el apoyo de ACNUR y mujeres expertas de refugiados en este Foro Mundial sobre Refugiados. Chile considera este evento como una oportunidad muy valiosa para poder promover la política exterior feminista chilena y resaltar algunos de nuestros principales desafíos y logros en la promoción de los derechos de las mujeres y las niñas, así como de las personas con diversidades sexogenéricas, incluida la presentación de 5 compromisos en los ámbitos de protección de la violencia sexual de género y de género que presentamos en este foro. Los compromisos presentados por Chile a este foro en este ámbito son los siguientes: otorgar protección complementaria a mujeres y niñas víctimas sobrevivientes de violencia basada en género en sus países de origen o a personas con diversidad sexogenérica que han sido víctimas de violencia a causa de su sexo, orientación sexual o identidad de género en sus países de origen cuando hayan sido reconocidas como refugiadas, priorizando y acelerando la resolución de sus solicitudes luego de realizar un análisis individual de los casos y conforme a los criterios establecidos en la normativa. Se está diseñando e implementando un protocolo de atención integral de manera articulada e interinstitucional que procure la atención psicosocial para las mujeres, adolescentes y niñas víctimas de violencia basada en género. Se está trabajando, diseñando e implementando mecanismos efectivos de difusión orientados a las mujeres, niñas, solicitantes de refugios, refugiadas y con necesidades de protección internacional a fin de garantizar el acceso a la información sobre sus derechos y sobre los distintos programas y dispositivos existentes en el país para abordar las violencias basadas en género. Se han creado canales institucionales de participación de las organizaciones de la sociedad civil de las mujeres solicitantes de refugio, refugiadas y con necesidades de protección internacional. En el Ministerio de la Mujer y Equidad de Género y su servicio, para el diseño de la implementación de programas y políticas que se dispongan en favor de este grupo. Así también se han mejorado la calidad de los datos estadísticos para lograr una desegregación por edad, sexo, orientación sexual e identidad de género que se ajuste a los estándares que permita promover la formulación de programas y políticas efectivas de inclusión socioeconómica y protección de mujeres y niñas solicitantes de refugios, refugiadas y con necesidades de protección internacional con enfoque de género, interseccional e intercultural. Quiero en este último minuto, sé que estoy más o menos justo en el tiempo, el Ministerio de la Mujer y Equidad de Género, en la actualización de su plan de igualdad que se aborda hasta el 2030, que es una política de Estado, ha puesto énfasis en las mujeres migrantes, refugiadas, mujeres indígenas, mujeres rurales, que creo que son también los énfasis que hoy día está poniendo los Estados, Naciones Unidas. Creo que nosotros, esta política de declararse un país que tiene una política exterior feminista, debe llevar acciones. Es lo que hoy día ha mandatado y es lo que hoy día, como nos ha mandatado el presidente Gabriel Boric, pero hoy día también nos mandata la sociedad, hacernos cargo de estas realidades que hoy día en el siglo XXI todavía siguen existiendo, hacernos cargo como sociedad que avanza en forma civilizatoria para que situaciones como las que nos relataba recién Fárida, el matrimonio todavía infantil, no puedan seguir existiendo ni en Latinoamérica ni en el mundo.
Thank you very much. Muchas gracias, Luz, por ser uno de los pocos países de América Latina con una política feminista de cooperación internacional y además por no solamente dejar en palabras, sino insertarlo dentro de la política pública esos cambios que tanto se necesitan. Now we move to Alexei Bus. From the very start of the Ukrainian refugee crisis, Moldova has been leading by example in championing gender equality when welcoming refugees. How is Moldova ensuring the inclusion of refugees in gender-based violence services and working to reduce risk of gender-based violence for refugee women and girls from diverse backgrounds exposed to multiple risks? How do you engage with women-led organizations?
Thank you. It's such a pleasure and honor to be here. And if I can address the first panel, I think on behalf of all the ministers, the decision makers, I think it's such a shame that in this year we still talk about these obvious things, that how it's important to address gender-based violence, and yet we fail. I think as a minister, as a decision maker, I come to you and say we plainly fail. We don't do enough, and I think it's important to say this. And a lot of times when we engage in this discussion, it's about oh, there's new digital way, AI, there's this shortcut, and we don't talk about the number one key issue, which is political will. Right? Until we'll get the political will, until we get these wonderful women on the decision table, nothing will change, and we need to recognize this. I think it's important. In Moldova, we have this high GBV prevalence and low addressability. When I came, I became a minister this year. We spent about 2% of our social on all the services that we pay for from the budget. We just spend 2% on the GBV services. We have 9 service providers who are from the public sphere, paid by the budget, and 10 service providers from civil society, mostly women-led organizations. So you have to understand how important and stakeholder is this in my country. And I think with the refugee crisis, in a way we were lucky. One, because we got the partners, we got the support, and we had strong civil society in Moldova. I think I came to the ministry from civil society, and I thought of myself as a gender equality champion. I hope I still live up to this notion and idea. But I think this exposed a lot of weaknesses in our system, that we fail our frontline workers, the police officers, the health professionals, the social workers. We keep inventing new tools and provide them with no resources, no increased pay. And again, that's not right. That's kind of window dressing when you come to an international conference and you laud your government, what a nice job you do, and when in fact you don't do this. And I don't want to be that person, right? And so in Moldova we have a lot to do, but we've proven that where's the political will, there's a way. So for instance, now Moldova, in terms of equal representation of men and women, is one of the top 20 in the world. We introduced double quota, we linked party financing to gender equality and youth empowerment, and the next big fight is on GBV. So one, we created a national standalone GBV agency under the Prime Minister. Two, we hired more people at the regional and local level. Three, we increased pay for GBV specialists. And we're working to finalize a GBV investment plan into all the services in Moldova. And I really hope, and I take this very seriously, next time when we meet, I'll come back to you to report that there's when there's a political way, you can do things. And it's unacceptable that in 2023 we still talk about why it's important to this. We should not accept this. We should not accept this premise. Thank you.
Thank you very much for addressing the elephant on the room, that is political will. Without political will, there is no funds, there is no resources, there is no experts to help us create any kind of change. Thank you. Then I would like to move to Marital. As 2023, as a GRF refugee expert, you have been developing pledges on gender equality and protection from gender-based violence, bringing in diverse talents, expertise, and decision makers that highlight the roles of refugee women and girls in all their diversity. What are your reflections from this process, and what are the key messages and contributions that you would like to share with us today?
Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. I lead an organization in South Africa called Whole World Women Association. The name is very intentional. This organization was founded by refugee women from the continent, supported by South African women who had come out of apartheid, the worst kind of experience that a human person could go through. The story of Whole World Women's Association has been a journey of inclusion. It has always wanted not to be branded Refugee Women Organization. So our name is so intentional. We are based in Cape Town, South Africa. And the women who come to our organization are from the ages of 9 years to 65 years and above. And we do include these very young ones in their formative years so that we can support them. I am an African woman, and in my culture, children are not allowed to sit around grown-ups and listen to grown-up stories. So children are not allowed to bring their stories to grown-ups. So the intentional inclusion of these young girls is to allow them to speak and be heard, because they are also victims of gender-based violence. We come from Mandela's country, where there came a time when a 3-month-old baby was raped by the baby's father to cure his HIV. So that is how prevalent the issue of gender-based violence is in my country, a beautiful place that Mandela created. But we coexist with South African women who jointly with us and international organizations, local organizations, and organizations like the UNHCR has supported us to craft programs to intentionally support women who are displaced, including women that we've come to meet in their communities, who are sometimes poorer than us, who have fled from war-torn countries. One of the things that we found very, very interesting was the open space that we created for women to feel safe, to talk and be heard, be listened to, and also be able to articulate how they felt. In my work, one of the things that I found interesting was the word, "How are you today?" There are refugee women who go for years and months with no one to ask them, "How are you today?" Checking in for us became a cornerstone. So please, if you see a refugee woman someday, ask her, how is she doing today? In the work that I do, and especially the journey with these conversations in this call to action for protection and gender equality, it started in July this year when I was invited to the Women Deliver Conference, where I met some of the most amazing women who are seated in this room today. I say thank you to Laura from UNHCR and UNHCR for seeing us. We've been in the field for so many years. Nobody saw us, nobody heard us, but the UNHCR saw me and invited me to Rwanda, where we started this journey on gender-based violence and also protection from gender-based violence and gender equality. So I had to meet, I have been conversing with members of states. What a privilege for me, a refugee. What a pride to speak and exchange, and they hear my voice and they say, "Mary, what do you want to do? How do you want to see the space created for refugee women?" So at Whole World Women's Association, I go back. I recognize that. That is when I began to really, truly feel that the voices of women is crucial. They are important in this journey for solidarity, for leadership, for human dignity, for human rights. And so I want to thank them again for allowing us, for our voices to be heard. And then I emphasize and encourage the women in my community, not only refugee women, local South African women, for us to continue our development. But this is how we see development in our community as refugee women and marginalized women in the host communities. We see development as an inclusive process that is qualitative and sustainable and strategic towards change, change that will improve and empower a refugee woman, a woman in the local community, for social coexistence. And in the things that I've named, in the kind of development that we want to see, we therefore call on stakeholders, on members of state, on donors, international community, include refugee women and forcibly displaced women in spaces where you're having conversations about policy, because we will then know what is in your policies, how is it going to impact us. We will contribute so that when we go back to our communities, we use this policy, we mainstream this policy, knowing what to do, what to say, and how to use it. We call on you again to include us in those spaces where decisions are made so that we can inform you from the grassroots what is happening in our communities so that we will be informed by you. It's a two-way stream. That is my biggest plea. And in those spaces where budgets are made, we wish to be included in those spaces so that when we budget for the work that we do, we know what we are budgeting for. We don't just budget blindly. We know in this department, in that department, there is some funding for this work, for that work. So for me, these are the main things that I learned in the conversations with the women that I sat with in all those online meetings, never showing my face because my internet, extremely poor. My computer, very old. And we do that work, right? And so I also call on strategic partners and partnerships that are built on trust and understanding and mutual respect. We have mostly been stripped of our dignity. So the moment I feel somebody doesn't respect me, I go back into that shell. I hide myself like a turtle. It can be only me. It's not only me. Every refugee woman in this room will attest to that. So we want that kind of respect where you look at me and see a human being. I look at you, I see a human being that respects me. So we call for that kind of solidarity. Thank you. And the last thing that I want to say is enhance and empower the agency of refugee women. Enhance our capacity. We are able to do the work. My colleagues have said it. We heard it all being said here. We need that capacity to be included in training spaces to do the work that we want to do, to be included in those professional spaces where we learn and enhance the skills that we already bring. And the last thing that I want to say, please do not say, stop saying they don't have capacity, because the capacity that all your big organizations have, that capacity was built on a lot of resources. How do you then expect us to have that capacity when we don't have those resources? Invest in us. I thank you.
Dear Mari, you said it all. Yeah, there is nothing else to need. Thanks for your wisdom and for putting all our needs on the forefront. Now I would like to invite Beth Delaney to answer the following question. Since 2019, Australia has been implementing pledges for advancing gender equality and protection from gender-based violence in displacement settings, in partnership with refugee women-led organizations, including in-host countries in the Asia-Pacific region. What are the lessons learned from 2019 Global Refugee Forum pledges implementation, and how are these informing your 2023 pledges? What is your vision towards the 2027 Global Refugee Forum?
Thank you very much, Excellencies, Ministers, distinguished guests. Can I just say I'm very honoured to be here to represent Australia as a co-lead of this pledge. Why is Australia here? We're here because we know that the aspirations that we have for the region, the aspirations that we have for our world can't be achieved without progress on gender equality, they can't be achieved without progress on social inclusion, and they cannot be achieved without progress on prevention of gender-based violence, particularly in settings of displacement. If women, as we've heard, remain underrepresented in positions of leadership and decision-making, we will never find enduring solutions to crises that disproportionately affect them. Front and centre of this is that we need to ensure women and girls' meaningful participation. So today we've pledged to increase funding to refugee-led organisations, particularly those led by women who are displaced and stateless. Over the next 2 years, we're going to facilitate a series of regional dialogues in Asia focused on refugee-led efforts to develop, sustain and contribute to vital services. And that's because, as we've heard from Farida and Shazar, refugee-led organisations, particularly those led by women, have a really crucial role in protecting and supporting women and girls across their displacement journey. They deliver essential, life-saving and, importantly, culturally appropriate services. They also help to create those durable solutions that we are all after by promoting integration and social cohesion. By way of example, in Malaysia, Australia has partnered with 8 organisations led by women from Afghanistan, Yemen, Pakistan, Myanmar, Somalia and Sudan, who provide support to gender-based violence survivors. With the training and the mentoring that these organisations deliver, they build skills and economic empowerment, and that enables refugee women to contribute to their host communities. And I think this demonstrates the considerable gains that can be made, and this is one of my lessons, even with modest funding in addressing refugee women's priorities. But that modest funding actually needs to be flexible and it needs to be long-term. And I think that's absolutely critical, and that's one of the things I think that we've learnt. So our 2019 pledges weren't specific enough on how we would actually achieve the participation of women and girls in refugee and host communities, or the protection from gender-based violence. We do a lot of work with other partners. But in our 2023 pledges, we're really focusing in on women-led organisations, those that actually drive that support for diverse women's inclusion, drive that leadership and drive that empowerment in ensuring that we're preventing and responding to gender-based violence. The other thing is that we're committing to these organisations that funding as directly as possible, and we're emphasising that that the importance of others in ensuring that there's a greater partnership when we have to fund it through intermediaries. Our commitments today they're reaffirming the importance of meaningful participation of women refugees in all the decisions that affect their lives. And I just wanted to acknowledge Nora Aziza, who's over there in the front row. She's a Rohingya woman from Rakhine State in Myanmar, and she's a member of Australia's new Refugee Advisory Panel here today. We're very proud that we've set up a Refugee Advisory Panel, and we're really honoured that we have direct refugee advisors participating in our delegation. And I really thank her in particular for sharing her expertise with the co-leads of this pledge. And with that, can I just thank Germany, UK, Moldova, Chile, because I think it's really, the importance of partnerships really is important in this context. What am I looking for in terms of the vision? I think through our collective action here today, through being held accountable for the pledges that we're making, then I'm hoping that we'll actually be able to deliver on that shared vision that we have for 2027, which is that women-led refugee organisations will be equal participants in addressing gender equality and in addressing gender-based violence in the work that we do. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Delaney, for the global solidarity and for localization of the funds where it needs to be. And now I would like to deeply thank this wonderful panel, and I will invite you to keep accompanying us from the floor so we can move to the interventions from the floor. Please, another warm round of applause for this wonderful panel. Thank you very much. Can you hear me? Yes. So to keep the horizontality, I'm coming to the floor with the floor speakers. So I would like to pass the floor to the United States, represented by Rebecca Kinsey, PRM Deputy Director for the Office of Policy and Resource Planning.
Thank you very much for today's really powerful dialogue, as well as for the opportunity to speak. I really have to agree with the resounding message that I think we've all heard, which is that we have so much more that we need to do. The United States is committed to the protection and empowerment of women and girls, including preventing and responding to gender-based violence as a life-saving priority and an integral part of every humanitarian response. This is why last year we launched the Safe from the Start Revisioned Initiative, which calls on everyone in the humanitarian community to take collective action to prioritize gender-based violence prevention and response from the onset of every humanitarian response. As part of our commitments made here at the Global Refugee Forum and under the banner of Safe from the Start, the United States has committed to 1, promoting women leadership, 2, prioritizing support and advocacy for gender-based violence prevention and survivor-centered response programming, and 3, driving increased representation, but also leadership of women and girls and women's organizations in decision-making structures and the delivery of humanitarian aid. In addition, the United States will advocate for refugee hosting countries to join the call to action to improve safe and dignified access by displaced and stateless women and girls to GBV prevention and response services, and expand global cooperation on preventing and responding to GBV in emergencies. Furthermore, the United States will support the UNHCR WFP Joint Program of Excellence and Targeting Hub to collect gender-sensitive data on food insecurity and vulnerability analysis. These are new pledges in recognition of the importance of the Global Refugee Forum as a galvanizing forum for collective action, but they really represent the continuing priority the United States places on the need for the humanitarian community together to do more to prevent and respond to gender-based violence. We welcome the actions of others to help further these aims. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now I will share the floor with the representative of Ethiopia.
Good afternoon.
Yes,
Here.
we can hear you.
Good afternoon. Thank you, dear moderator. Thank you, speakers, excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. It's a pleasure to join you all here today. At the outset, let me express my gratitude to all of you for attending this important parallel event. I'm very touched with the statement of Farida and Shaza. At the same time, I'm really proud of them. In collaboration with UNHCR and relevant stakeholders, the government of Ethiopia is dedicated to combat gender-based violence and promote gender equality, acknowledging GBV as a profound human rights violation that impedes sustainable development. Ethiopia has embraced a comprehensive strategy encompassing prevention, response, and advocacy. Despite significant progress in integrating refugees into the national response system, challenges persist in providing effective and timely GBV response services to asylum seekers, refugees, and host communities. Recognizing the limitations, the government of Ethiopia has planned to strengthen multi-sectoral referrals within the continuum of GBV response, inclusive of safety and security, medical interventions, legal counseling, and access to justice, and to enhance GBV risk mitigation interventions while eliminating sexual exploitation and abuse and reducing negative coping mechanisms. That's why the government of Ethiopia is pledging to enhance its capacity and relevant partners to include 1 million refugees into the National Central Statistics Service and the National Gender-Based Violence Prevention and Response Programs. Hence, we earnestly urge the international community to join us in supporting our efforts to develop an inclusive and effective GBV prevention and response system for both refugees and host communities. In conclusion, we hope that relevant stakeholders would play their role for the implementation of the pledge based on the principle of burden and responsibility sharing of the GCR and CRRF. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And also, I would like to remind to the floor speakers that we have 1 minute per each speaker, so we will gladly share now the floor with Switzerland, represented by Barbara Duttweiler, head of the Multilateral Humanitarian Affairs.
Thank you very much. I was told here to come and speak about what Switzerland is doing to combat GBV. But after having heard all the statements and the testimonies of these wonderful and strong women, I really feel humble. And I was very touched by what you said, Farida. And believe me, your words will not be unheard. But still, coming back, and that's my task to say what Switzerland is doing. We are also a member of the call to action on protection from GBV in emergencies. We have made 2 specific pledges, one to support UNHCR's work on GBV in Central Africa and another one around protection and migration in Latin America. And we are committed to mitigate GBV risk in all our activities, in all what we are doing. And we also want to increase access for GBV survivors to specialized services. And we are also highly dedicated, and this is very close to my heart, to promote, to support, to empower local women-led organizations. and this in a spirit of equal partnership. Gender-based violence is widespread, it is life-threatening, it is deeply rooted in gender inequality and structural norms that disempower and discriminate. Ending gender-based violence must be a priority for all of us. It is a priority for Switzerland, a protection priority. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now we pass the floor to Sweden, represented by I'm sorry.
It's not an easy one. Torbjörn.
Pedersen, Assistant Director
Thank you.
General.
Torbjörn Pedersen, Assistant Director General of SIDA. I'm proud to be part of this pledge. Sweden is pledging new funding. Of course, this is something, or not of course, but this is GBV, something that is on top of the agenda for us since many years back and applies to all of our support. But in this pledge, we pledge new funding through IRC to increase the work among refugees and conflict-afflicted populations in West Africa. And complementary to that, we also increase our support in this area through our humanitarian funding. But most importantly, I think I appreciated one of the panelists saying that we need to be honest. I think we as donors need to be extremely honest. We are doing extremely poorly on the localization agenda. It's extreme. We do so little to support women's rights organizations at the local level. So our most important pledge is to continue our work to do that. When measured, we are actually twice as good as most of the OECD donors, and still it's so bad I don't want to mention the figure. So that's our most important pledge. What we want to do now as a specific pledge, in addition to the advocacy for this and continue to try to be champion to advocate that among donors, is to open a window in our support for UN Trust Funds for a special window to end violence against women among refugees and forcibly displaced people. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now we share the floor with the European Union, represented by Michael Amedeo, the Director General for Neighborhood and Enlargement Negotiations.
I'm not yet the Director General, but I work in Director General. I'm a Deputy Head of Unit. I've also a rather standard script, but I feel compelled to adapt it after having heard the panel. I'm very pleased to address on behalf of the EU this very important matter that is very close to my heart, and what I think is very important. It's a very emotional matter, but I think we have to address it with rationality and with legislation. I think it's very important. And I have family in Peru, and I know of all the work that is done there in terms of awareness raising. I hope it leads to proper changes in legislation. This forum offers an opportunity to galvanize our collective action and call for political will and legislative changes. The EU has been an active member of the call to action on protection from gender-based violence. It has introduced a gender age marker on humanitarian assistance. It has dedicated in 2022 41 million of humanitarian funding for to address gender-based violence and 23 million to sexual reproductive health. We hope and we want to do more. The EU also adopted its third gender action plan covering 2021-2025, which I invite you to read. The action plan foresees that 85% of our external funding must take into consideration gender equality issues. So now the EU commits to implement its gender action plans, which means that we are accountable to respect this 85% target, meaning all our actions, 85% of our actions need to take into consideration gender equality. Then implement and disseminate policies for protection from gender-based violence, support capacity building and legislative change. I think it's very important, and we need to lead by example. 4, a report annually on funding allocation to respond to gender-based violence. So make ourselves accountable on how much we do every year on funding on gender to address gender-based violence. 5, promote gender equality and gender mainstreaming in all our future migration programs. 6, we will launch a call for proposals for transnational projects on migrant and refugee women integration specific to that.
Thank you very much. Now we continue with Canada. Now we move to the floor with UNFPA, represented by Eugene Gonyu, Deputy Director, Humanitarian Response Division.
Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. So it's my honor to express UNFPA's commitment to the multi-stakeholder pledge on gender equality and against gender-based violence. In line with the pledge, UNFPA will reinforce its commitment to strengthening health and social protection systems and to ensuring equitable access to gender-based violence and sexual and reproductive health services for refugees, IDPs, and all persons at risk of gender-based violence and harmful practices. As part of this effort, UNFPA will scale up and enhance GBV case management, strengthen social service systems, integrate gender-based violence in midwifery training curricula, and conduct advocacy to ensure survivors of gender-based violence, including those who are forcefully displaced, are able to access services as a component of the universal health coverage. UNFPA remains committed to enhancing the capacity of women-led organizations to design and implement interventions. We will not wait and say they don't have capacity, and we will seek to increase their participation and leadership in GBV coordination structures. This will be complemented by the continued efforts to increase funding to local actors, including those led by displaced women. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now we share the floor with UN Women and Women's Peace and Humanitarian Fund, represented by Osnat Lubrani, Chief of Normative and Humanitarian Coordination.
Thank you. Thank you so much, and thank you for all of the amazing, powerful, influential voices that we heard today. UN Women, leveraging its triple mandate in partnership with national authorities and in strong partnership with women-led organizations, pledges to advance response and prevention to GBV against forcibly displaced women, including through support for their social and economic inclusion and their leadership across the humanitarian development peace nexus in over 20 countries. The Women, Peace and Humanitarian Fund, WPHF, in partnership with BMZ, the German Federal Ministry for Economic Cooperation and Development, pledges to further promote the political and socio-economic leadership of displaced women and girls through the funding initiative on forced displacement. The initiative currently supports 181 local women's organizations in 10 countries, and new investments will extend the geographic scope and reach of the initiative. And furthermore, WPHF will invest in technical support and a mentorship scheme for local women's organizations in partnership with the Action Network on Forced Displacement. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now we share the floor to Plan International, represented by Stephen Omolo, CEO.
Thank you so much, and I also personally want to thank all of the panelists for inspiring me and for being so powerful. And hello everyone, I'm Sidra El-Shamali. I'm 15 years old and I'm a Syrian refugee and youth and women advocate from Canada. And I have been given the space very kindly by Plan International CEO Stephen Amolo, as we notice the lack of youth and especially young women participation in high-level spaces when these are the places where youth are needed most with their unique and authentic voices and ideas. So I hope that with my presence here, I can set the stage for other young folks to lead towards positive change. And now on to Plan International's pledges. Thank you so much. In collaboration with UNHCR and its partners, Plan International commits to take concrete action to tackle child, early and forced marriage, and unions and forced displacement. Plan pledges to provide technical support to build capacity and to develop resources to prioritize child marriage prevention. So Plan's commitments further includes working with decision makers to offer a contextualized analysis of child marriage informed by the authentic experiences and perspectives of adolescents themselves. Additionally, Plan International will document and disseminate valuable lessons learned from child marriage prevention and response, guiding future programming decisions, contributing to evidence of effective interventions. And as part of Plan's vision, we foresee a future where all displaced children, especially girls, can thrive and reach their full potential, irrespective of their circumstances. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Plan International. Thank you so much, Plan International, for bringing the intergenerational approach that it's needed in this kind of decision-making spaces. Now I would like to share the floor with Orange Group, represented by Alban Martin, Vice President, Digital Inclusion.
I'll do it from here, it's going to be easier. So thank you very much. I feel very honored to be here with you after such a thoughtful testimonial. Thank you. So I'm introducing the pledge from the telecom company Orange, its foundation, and all the women refugees that we seek to support. So far, we have provided digital skills and free entrepreneur skills to empower 50,000 women through the Orange Foundation program. Some of the beneficiaries of this program are already women refugees, such as in Jordan, in DRC, in France, and soon in Moldova. But we pledge today to invite all UNHCR local partners to propose this free training to any motivated refugee woman across the 25 countries where this program is available. Because, as the High Commissioner Filippo Grandi said, I quote him, "Give these women even a small opportunity, and they will blossom in the desert." Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you to all the speakers that represent states, international organizations, and the public sector. We think that it's necessary a multi-sectoral approach to insert refugee women into the human capital of the host communities. So for the closing remarks, I would like to invite Marguerite Barankitse, also known as Maggie, founder of Maison Shalom, and Simone Manley, UK Ambassador for Permanent Representative in Geneva. Please join me following here to the podium. You can come closer. Yes. Please, dear Margarita, we would like to hear your reflections from this session. Please enlighten us.
Je suis un peu timide parce que j'ai vu ces femmes extraordinaires je voudrais, vous ne les avez pas applaudis comme il faut. Je demande aussi pardon parce que j'ai été rebelle. Je n'ai pas écrit le texte. Laura, tu vas me pardonner parce que je suis tellement émue que vous m'avez invitée. Je voudrais remercier le Haut Commissariat pour les réfugiés d'avoir brisé le silence de l'indifférence, de m'inviter, sachant très bien, je sais qu'on nous a dit de ne pas parler politique, mais vous avez fait un acte politique en m'invitant, sachant que je suis condamnée à perpétuité dans mon pays. Je vous remercie. Quand on parle que je suis fondatrice de la Maison Shalom, je voudrais vous dire, ça fait 43 ans que je me bats dans mon pays. Je suis du Burundi, de la région des Grands Lacs. Et c'est depuis 1959, depuis mon enfance, j'avais 3 ans, que j'ai vu, et le mot réfugié qui m'embête beaucoup, que j'aimerais que le Haut Commissariat change son nom, qu'on change ce mot camp, parce que c'est ça qui m'a révoltée, qui m'a poussée à me lever depuis mon jeune âge. J'avais 24 ans. J'ai vu dans mon pays les mamans fuir et laisser les enfants derrière, prendre seulement les bébés. Je me suis levée. Les journalistes ont écrit La folle du Burundi. Donc vous allez écouter cette folie. Et j'aimerais que vous partiez ici en sachant que ce qui tue dans le monde, c'est l'indifférence. C'est l'indifférence qui tue. Et moi, je me suis dit, je peux créer la différence. Quand je me suis levée, je n'avais rien. J'ai dormi dans la rue avec des enfants. Tout le monde a dit, elle va se fatiguer. Mais vous voyez, 43 ans ne m'ont pas fatiguée. J'ai 67 ans, j'ai commencé à 24 ans. Et c'est la même joie. Je suis une femme qui, mes yeux ont vu des atrocités et mes yeux aussi ont vu la merveille de la générosité humaine. On a tué 60 personnes de ma famille. Et tout le monde a dit, cette fois-ci, elle va haïr. Mais j'ai dit non. Ma réponse sera l'amour. Je suis allée en Tanzanie chercher des réfugiés. Parmi ces réfugiés, même ceux qui avaient tué ma famille, je leur ai dit, nous devons reconstruire notre patrie. Et ils sont venus. Et c'est comme ça qu'en 2005, le Haut Commissariat a reconnu mon travail, m'a donné le Nansen. Je dis non. Moi, je ne veux pas le Nansen. Je veux que vous fermiez les camps des réfugiés. Que vous fermiez, que vous obligiez ces chefs d'État tyranniques de donner la possibilité aux mamans d'élever leurs enfants. J'ai pu élever plus de 50 000 enfants. Les Rwandais, les Congolais, les Burundais. Et j'avais cru que j'avais réellement créé une nouvelle génération. Tout le monde est venu voir cette maison qui accueillait tous les enfants. J'ai créé des hôpitaux, j'ai créé. Mais en 2015, alors que ces mêmes personnes, je les avais aidées, ils m'ont proclamé criminel. Ils m'ont chassé. Mais j'ai dit, vous ne mourrez pas. Je n'aurai jamais la haine. Et je voudrais vous dire ici que vous tous, si chacun de vous s'élève, vous avez la capacité d'empêcher qu'il y ait des orphelins, qu'il y ait des réfugiés, qu'il y ait des enfants dans la rue. Parce que moi, je me suis levée. J'ai connu tout. Quand j'étais exilée, je suis partie, comme chaque personne exilée ne prend rien, mais une exilée spéciale, par avion. Et j'arrive à Zaventem, à Bruxelles, sans rien, sans passeport, sans rien, parce que j'ai dû fuir parce qu'on voulait me tuer. Les journalistes m'attendaient, m'ont posé la question, Madame, maintenant que vous avez tout perdu, tout ce que vous avez fait pendant 25 ans, tout a été pris et vous êtes là sans passeport, sans rien. Je dis, Madame, c'était une dame. Je n'ai rien perdu. Je suis citoyen du monde. J'aimerais que les réfugiés comme moi, que vous êtes là, chaque fois qu'on vous pose la question, de ne pas courber les chines, de dire je suis citoyen du monde. Je dis aux journalistes, je n'ai rien perdu parce que j'ai ma capacité de reconstruire. Je ne suis pas restée en Europe alors que je pouvais. Je suis allée construire au Rwanda, à l'Est, où il y a 75 000 réfugiés. Je leur ai dit, vous n'êtes pas des réfugiés, levez-vous. Et on a reconstruit. J'ai pu faire, avec l'aide, quand je vous vois là, je voudrais remercier que ce soit l'Allemagne, la France, la Suède. Tout le monde s'est mis d'accord, mais il vous aide parce que vous-même, vous avez cette volonté. Mais mon dernier appel, pourquoi je le dis? Même si vous nous empêchez de parler politique, je suis en train de souffrir ici devant vous. J'ai 11 000 jeunes dans les prisons du Burundi, alors que je les avais aidés. Faites quelque chose. Dans tout ce qu'on dit, on parle bien sûr des conflits dans le monde, mais je suis sûre, on vous en supplie. J'ai vu les larmes de Farida, j'ai vu les larmes de Marie, j'ai vu dans la salle combien vous étiez touchés. Voilà mon appel. Je suis sûre qu'ensemble, si nous nous levons, l'impossible deviendra possible. Merci beaucoup.
Thank you very much, Maggie. Now, dear Ambassador Manley, the floor is yours for the closing remarks.
Well, thank you. It's quite hard for us kind of boring old bureaucrats to kind of offer any concluding remarks after such an extraordinarily powerful session. So, if I may too be un petit peu rebelle, I also have a beautifully and eloquently drafted set of remarks by my team. So with apologies to Diana and Eleanor and all those who drafted it, let me just say, I mean, first of all, we are, of course, we're co-sponsoring this call to action. We're joining the pledge on gender equality and protection from GBV, along with Germany, along with Chile, along with Australia. And let me also pay tribute to the other member states who've made their pledges today on this, so important. We're also announcing today £2 million more money to the UN Trust Fund to end violence against women and the special window on crimes, on crises. That's the bureaucratic bit. But just to say, how powerful the voices have been this afternoon, how much more we need to hear those voices. And it reminds us, I think, all of us, of the power of survivors, of victims, the power of inclusion of young people, of people with disabilities, of LGBT plus people, of survivors and victims, and of the power that is in our hands, all of us, as organizations and particularly as donors, to empower and resource women-led refugee organizations, the people on the ground, to give them the power to change people's lives, to stand up for women's rights, to stand up for women's safety, and to stand up for a better future for women and girls in these conflict situations. Thank you so much to each and every one of you who's spoken today. I think we all go away from this session inspired and just a little bit more hopeful.
Thank you, Ambassador. Thank you, dear Maggie. Thanks to all our panelists, the pledging entities, all the people that connected online. Thanks for your commitment to ensure the human rights of refugee women and girls are respected. We would like to invite all the organizations to post your pledges in case you haven't done so. Have an inspiring and connecting week. Thank you very much.
Can I say something very important? Pour les réfugiés qui n'ont pas, parce que dans les aéroports, est-ce qu'il y a moyen de mettre autres documents? Parce que c'est toujours all passport. Et nous ne savons pas, nous sommes déjà discriminés quand nous entrons chez vous. Mettez aussi autres documents dans les aéroports. Ça va nous donner la dignité.
Thank you. Thank you, Ambassador. I would like to comment that I'm a GBV scholar.
Oh, fantastic. Where did you study?
I'm at UCL right now.
Oh, well done. My daughter just graduated a year ago.
No, I'm a current fellow right now.
My daughter graduated in, not this summer, the summer before.